Hey guys, it's Peter Chen recording another 500 Zoom video. Here on table one, I think this 7-3 is pretty close to defend. Going to fold, but most suited hands are going to be pretty close to defend against a small open. On table two, this king 8 is borderline again. I'm going to raise it. And on this flop, I'm going to start with a small bet with my entire range. On table one, I open Queen Jack on the button, get called by the small blind. I think I want to be betting quite a high frequency here. So even though my hand's pretty good to check, I'm going to be betting it a lot. And so on the turn, I think it's mixed again. I would check back most of my ace-x and either bet or check with a queen. And the lower I go with my hand, the more I'll be betting. I think this is a decent hand to bet. I have a spade, and I'm blocking a lot of his calling hands like king, queen, and king, jack. And I'm not blocking the folding hands, which will be hands closer to what he had. He had pocket sevens. It will mostly be like that type of hand that's folding, or an ace high. On table two, opening ace-6 from the small blind. This ace-jack suited, I can either raise or call. I'm going to call this time. So I think I mostly want to be checking back here. I'm not going to be betting at a super high frequency, and I have a kind of middle strength hand. And now I'm going to call once. Not super happy about the call, but I don't think I can fold with my pair and straight draw. So on table two, I'm going to call the big blind against the button open. And now I could consider betting. I'll probably bet a small amount of the time and mostly check. On table one, I'm going to 4-bet and get it in. It's pretty close. I could call as well. And now I'm going to either bet small or check. My hand will be checking a little more often, I think. So on table 2 with this ace 10, I'm mostly going to be 3-betting it. I'll be calling ace jack and ace queen a little more. And ace king and ace 10 mostly 3-betting. That's just with the offsuit ones. On table 1, I could bet big or small or check. I'm going to check this time. And now I'm going to be calling this bet. I think I have a pretty good bluff catcher, so I'm going to call again. I think I even might beat some hands he's betting for value, like if he has a worse 7, and then my ace of hearts is a pretty good card to have. Blocks a lot of his strong hands. So he had ace 9 there. I don't usually expect him to be bluffing with ace highs, since he can have a lot of lower hands to bet. But it's not too crazy out of position to just choose any hand that might have good blockers. Like maybe he thinks that 9 is a good card. Maybe he just thinks I'm overfolding. Or maybe it's just low enough that he's supposed to be bluffing with it. So on table 2, I opened, got called. This is a flop where I'll be betting sometimes, but out of position, even the boards where we're betting a lot, we're still checking most of the time. So I'm going to raise this sometimes and call sometimes, mostly calling. And I'm going to do the same on the turn, either raise or call. On table 1, I open king jack from the hijack. And on this flop, I'll just be betting small with my entire range. And on the blank turn, I'm going to be doing a lot of big betting. I think this king jack is close with the 2 short stacks in the blinds. Well, the one short stack and the other guy who doesn't have auto top up on. I'm going to play slightly wider. And here I'm going to mix between checking and betting small. And now I'm calling this bet. I don't think I ever raise with my hand. And if he bets again, I'm calling again. So here with queens, I'm going to 3-bet. I'm going to open this ace-8. It's pretty borderline, but we saw the big blind limping earlier. On table 2, raising king 9 from the small blind. And folding to the 3-bet. I think I have to call the 6-4 against this size. I think if I had a diamond, I would probably call this, or if the bet was smaller. So on table 1, I opened the button, bet quarter pot, and got raised. And my hand is just always going to be a call against this raise. On table 2, opening ace-3 suited from under the gun. I get called 3 ways. I'm just going to check my range. With the king 5, so I don't think my hand is weak enough yet to turn into a bluff. Like, I still have a lot of 10x and some pocket pairs. Or jack 9, queen 9. And I don't think I need to call this bet now. Like, I'm pretty far down in my range. Especially when I was already considering turning a 10 into a bluff. On table 2, I 3-bet, and I faced this really small cold 4-bet. I think this is not a great hand to be calling. I get dominated by most of what he can have. Like, I'd much rather call something like 8-7 suited if I have that. On table 2, opening the button with 10-9. And on the swap, I'm going to be either betting half pot or checking. This hand wants to bet a little more often. I'm going to check this time. Against this bet, I think I can raise a small amount of the time or call. I'm not going to be raising at a really high frequency after the flop goes check check, especially when I'm supposed to be the aggressor in the hand. So most of my strong hands have already left my range by being bet. And I think on the turn I'm still calling with a lot of king high, but either way my hand should be very good to bluff. I think I want to choose a smaller sizing because I want to be betting with an 8 as well. But maybe I can go big with a king and small with an 8 anyways. On table 1, I open the cutoff, get called by the big blind. I'm going to be betting my range at a pretty high frequency for a small size. And this turn is pretty blanky. Like 7-5 makes it, but that's not a lot of hands. I can't have 7-5, he can only have the suited ones, I think. So I'm going to go for a big bet. We can see he's got the badge where he's played 100,000 hands. That's not a lot. What is the highest one you can get? It's 1 million. But it seems like all the grinders have one of the smaller ones on there. No one wants to advertise they've played 1 million hands. So on table 2, I think this is pretty close against the reg. I'm going to fold. So on table 1, hijack opens, small blind calls. I'm going to 3-bet this hand. So when the small blind is the caller, I think we can 3-bet a lot smaller. So I'm going to call this pocket threes. When the small blind is calling, the big blind can 3-bet smaller because it's putting a lot of pressure on the opener already by the third player being in the pot, and then it's putting pressure on the small blind by being in position. So on table 2, I opened and got called. I'm going to be betting this a small amount of the time, but still mostly checking. And on table 1, I'm going to try to shut this down and hopefully win against an ace high or something. And now with the ace 10, I'm going to be raising. I'm just going to min raise on the higher boards. I want to put in a small raise. And the min raise is already like 30% of pot or something, so it's not like a super small raise. And I think this is a card where I want to be checking a lot. Like a lot of hands improved. Both mine and the other guys. We can both have king jack or ace queen. I think if the river was a diamond, my hand might not be strong enough to bet. But on the heart, it probably is, and having the ace of hearts is great too. And anyways, I'm putting in a very small bet, so I don't need to have a super strong hand. On table one, I opened the button, and I'm going to be betting at a very high frequency on this board for a small size. And I think this is pretty close. If I had any kind of suit, I would definitely have to continue. Um, or if I had a tighter draw, like if I had a 10-9 or Queen 10, I'd probably continue either by calling or three betting. Table one, opening King 8 suited from hijack. And on table two, opening King 7 suited. On table one, I'm facing a very small open. Um, Seems pretty close. I don't know. I have a pretty poor backdoor draw and king high. Maybe that's strong enough to call. I'm really not sure. So on table two, I'm going to be checking back, but I could be betting this hand sometimes. I think any hand is probably going to be mixed, and just the worst hands like mine are going to be checking back a little more, and then the better hands, like if I had something like Jack 10 or a King, I'll be betting them a little more. On table two, opening cutoff with King Queen off. On table one, opening cutoff with Queen 10 off. And folding to this 3-bet. On table 2, I have ace-8 in the cutoff. Going to fold it. I think that's 3 good players behind. On table 2, I'm going to be 3-betting this ace-jack, big blind versus cutoff most of the time. On table 2, opening the button with king 9. We got a flop where I'm going to be doing pretty much everything some of the time. So I'm going to bet half pot this time. And this is a turn where my hand has turned into a pretty good check. On table 1, I'm going to be 3-betting sometimes and calling sometimes. So now when the third guy has entered the pot, I'm going to be playing a more polarized range, but I'm still going to be not more polarized, more linear range, but I'm still going to be 3-betting this hand sometimes. It's going to be hands like suited kings and suited queens that disappear from my range and go towards like the higher Broadway cards. By suited kings and queens, I mean like with a low card. And I think I can just check a lot on the flop. On table 2, I'm going to be betting at a pretty high frequency. And now on the turn, I want to go for big bets, and this hand plays pretty well as a check. If he bets, I'm going to fold, and if he checks, I'm going to check back. On table 1, there's a limp. I think I should join the pot. And I'll be folding to the big blinds raise. So this is the type of hand on table 2 I was talking about, which will be a 3-bet sometimes against a single player, but not against 2 players. On table 1, opening under the gun with queen 9, and on table 2, opening cutoff with queen 8. I'm going to be checking my range 3-way, and with the queen 8, I'll be betting a lot, but checking sometimes. And on table 1, it goes check, check, check. I'll be betting a small percent of the time, but still mostly checking. And on table 2, now that I've hit my 8, I'm just going to bet it every time. On table 1, I think I'll just go for a big bet. I'm not sure if I'm actually supposed to do this. Maybe I am, now that it's the river. But I just think I'm pretty much never getting raised, and if I check, it's going to get checked back a lot. So the best way for me to get value is just by putting in money myself. So if nothing happens on table 2, I'm going to end the video after this hand. Okay, so on this flop, I'm going to be betting at a pretty high frequency and betting a small size. And against this pot size donk, I'll just be folding. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for weekly 500 Zoom videos.